Wow. Wow, all that for me. Thank you. Let me clarify something, why they let a guy up here. I'm Al Franken. I'm senator from Minnesota. I hold the seat that Paul Wellstone held. And I can point to someone on this stage who I wouldn't be senator from Minnesota if it hadn't been for her, and that is Hillary Clinton. My first election was kind of close. I won by 312 votes. Hillary came twice for me, once in October, and then I got a call from her the Sunday before the election, said I'm coming out. And we did a big rally in Duluth, and I got more than 312 votes at that rally, I gotta tell you. I'm a Paul Wellstone progressive. And let me tell you what that means. Paul said, we all do better when we all do better. Now, if I knew what a haiku was, I'd say that was a haiku, but evidently I've been told it isn't. But Paul knew that we all do better when we all do better. I grew up in suburban Minnesota. Neither of my parents went to college. My dad didn't graduate from high school. I grew up in a two-bedroom, one-bath house, but I considered myself the luckiest kid in the world because I was. I was growing up middle class at the height of the middle class in America. But a lot of kids don't feel that way these days. And we've got to restore that, and Hillary Clinton will restore that America. My wife, I'm familiar with this part of the country. My wife grew up in Portland, Maine. Down east. I know that. Now, she wasn't as lucky. Her dad, a decorated World War II vet, died in a car accident when she was 18 months old, leaving her mom widowed with 5 kids at age 29. There was one younger than my wife, but they all made it. They made it because of Social Security survivor benefits. Now, sometimes, this is Portland, Maine, sometimes they turn the heat off in the winter, and sometimes they turn the phone off, and a lot of times there wasn't enough food, but they made it. All 4 girls went to college on Pell Grants, and a Pell Grant then paid for 80% of a college education. And they did it on Pell Grants and work and scholarships. My brother-in-law went in the Coast Guard and became an electrical engineer. And my mother-in-law, when the youngest started high school, she got a GI loan, $300. Went to the University of Maine in Portland, got 3 more loans, graduated, became a teacher, and because she was teaching Title I kids, all her loans were forgiven. They tell you, they tell you in this country to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and we Democrats believe that. But we also know that first you got to have the boots. First you got to have the boots. And the government gave my wife's family the boots and Social Security survivor benefits, the GI Bill, Pell Grants. And that's why we're all Democrats. And your governor is here, and your senator is here, and and Senator Shaheen, my colleague, and I, like the only other Democrats who've endorsed in this race, have endorsed Hillary Clinton for a reason. Because this is serious stuff. This is serious stuff. This is Sherrod Brown. This is Cory Booker. This is Tammy Baldwin. We are progressives. And we know what it takes to get things done. And that's why we want Hillary Clinton as our president. And along with Hillary Clinton as our president, we want a Democratic Senate. And if I'm not wrong, there's something we can do about that here in New Hampshire. This is a state that's done some very odd things. It's elected a woman governor and then senator. That's so odd. I mean, what other state has done that? No other state has done that. I mean, that's so odd. Could it happen again? How? Oh, yes, I get it. I accidentally said something that I wasn't aware of. Maggie Hassan is going to be your next U.S. Senator. And she knows they're different jobs because Jeanne Shaheen has told her they're different jobs. But we need her in the U.S. Senate. I give you your great New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan.
Thank you, Senator Al Franken. Give it up for Al Franken, everybody. He is in the United States Senate fighting for working families, just as Hillary Clinton has spent her whole career fighting for working families, for women and children. How many of you caught Hillary's speech last night? It was fabulous, wasn't it? Hillary laid out her passion, her vision, and she talked about bringing her heart and her head. She talked about dreaming and about doing. And ever since she has been here in New Hampshire campaigning, she has been talking to the people of New Hampshire about what they dream about, what their vision is, what their concerns are, whether it is the opioid and heroin crisis, whether it's college affordability, whether it's how we're going to move our economy forward, whether it is how we are going to wipe ISIS off the face of the map and keep our country safe. She has a plan, and she has the experience and the capacity to listen and the capacity to learn and then stake out a path forward that makes her the best qualified person to be our next president of the United States. Now, Al talked about Hillary. Look at that, that's great. Now, Al talked about some of the reasons that he's supporting Hillary Clinton for president and some of the reasons that his colleagues in the Senate are. And as your governor, I have lots and lots of reasons to support Hillary Clinton as the next president. But I want to talk to you a little bit about why my husband Tom and I, from a very personal place, support Hillary Clinton as our next president. As many of you know, Tom and I have two kids who I think are quite terrific and beautiful. Ben, who is 27, and Meg, who is 23. Ben happens to have very severe and pervasive physical disabilities. He has cerebral palsy. And while he understands everything going on around him, he can't speak, he can't walk. Most of his nutrition comes through a feeding tube. He can't really use his fingers to access a computer keyboard. So Ben communicates by raising his hand or using facial expression. When Ben was 3, a school bus pulled into our driveway and lowered a wheelchair lift, and we wheeled Ben onto the lift, and off he went to his first day of preschool. And I sat on our front stoop thinking about the fact that had Ben been born a generation or two earlier, we would have been advised to put him in an institution. But he was going to school in his hometown. Now, a decade or two earlier, Hillary Clinton had graduated from law school, and she went to work for the Children's Defense Fund. And one of the first assignments they gave her was to go knock on the doors of families whose kids weren't going to school. And as Hillary knocked on those doors, she learned that many of those kids weren't in school because they had disabilities. The schools didn't know how to provide an education for them. People didn't yet understand that kids like my son, very locked in, but very cognitively able, they didn't understand that children like that could learn. So what did Hillary, with her colleagues at the Children's Defense Fund, do, along with lots and lots of families and advocates and elected leaders? They rolled up their sleeves and they went to work. And ultimately what happened was we passed a law in the United States of America that said that every child has a right to a free and appropriate education. But it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there, because you can pass all the laws you want, but you have to win over the skeptics about whether a kid like Ben Hassan can learn. You have to work with schools and teachers to provide them the resources and the training and the supports to make it possible to include a Ben Hassan in their classroom. It's ongoing, difficult work. It takes listening and patience and collaboration. But here's what I know. Because of that early work, and because of Hillary Rodham Clinton's commitment, not just to my son, but to all of our children, and all of our families, and all of the working people in this country. Today, my son Ben is an Exeter High School graduate and a member of his community. That's the difference. That is the difference. That's the difference a progressive makes in real people's lives. So I am honored to support Hillary Clinton as president. I know that many of you here today have been out working for Hillary, knocking on doors for Hillary, making phone calls for Hillary. You keep at it. You keep at it and talk to your friends and neighbors about why you support Hillary Clinton. For those of you who aren't sure yet in this audience, please talk to your friends and neighbors. You're going to hear from Senator Shaheen and you're going to hear from Secretary Clinton. But think about the fact that we make progress in this country every generation by bringing people in from the margins, working together, including new people in the heart and soul of our communities so that everybody has the opportunity for the American dream. That's what progressives do, and it is hard, ongoing, but incredibly rewarding work, and it is the story of our country. So I am thrilled to be here. urge each and every one of you not only to go vote on Tuesday for Hillary Clinton, but find some more people who haven't made up their mind yet either and get them to the polls on Tuesday too. And with that, it is now my honor to introduce to you another great advocate for working men and women in New Hampshire and in our country, a woman who has served as our governor, who has served us with such compassion and common sense and forward thinking in the United States Senate, my friend, my colleague, my mentor, and the best U.S. Senator, and the only woman ever to be governor and U.S. Senator, Jeanne Shaheen.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to Governor Maggie Hassan for that wonderful introduction and for being such a great governor for New Hampshire. And isn't she going to be a great United States Senator? And I know you heard from former Speaker Terry Norelli earlier and from my daughter Stephanie. Did they get you fired up? Yep. And it's always fun to be here with my colleague Al Franken. You know, we go into the Democratic caucus. We have lunch every Tuesday, the Democrats in the Senate, and you just never know what Al is going to say.
That's good, right?
That's very good, Al. It's really great for me to be here with all of you at Great Bay Community College. This is a wonderful community college in New Hampshire. Are you to be able to talk about what we need to do in the next couple of days, and also to introduce our friend Hillary Clinton, right? You know, Al talked about how we believe in democratic values. Well, we believe in Hillary, don't we? Yes. I love this sign, believe in Hillary. Because of the great work that so many of you have done here and across the state, knocking on doors, making phone calls, talking to your friends, to your neighbors, to the people you work with, we are going to send Hillary out of New Hampshire with good, strong momentum. She is going to surprise the pundits on Tuesday. So we just have to keep at it, right? Now, you heard Al and Maggie talk about the democratic values that they believe in and the difference that Hillary has made for families on those values. I want to talk a little bit about why I support Hillary Clinton. And I've had the chance to know her since before I became governor. When she was First Lady, I got a chance to work with her as First Lady, got a chance to see what she did when she was in the Senate for the people who responded to the 9/11 disaster and what she did to help rebuild New York. I got a chance to watch her as Secretary of State when she said, women's rights are human rights, and we are going to make that a fundamental axiom of our foreign policy. And you know what? If she didn't back down on women's rights around the world, she isn't going to back down on women's rights here at home, and I think that's really important. But I also have had a chance to sit on both the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Foreign Relations Committee. And I know that this is a very dangerous world. And I want somebody who knows not only what we need to do here at home, but what we need to do around the world. Somebody who has credibility in the global community, who can talk to other world leaders and build those international coalitions that we need if we're going to defeat ISIS, if we're going to stop the threat of Russian aggression, if we're going to deal with North Korea and its nuclear weapons, if we're going to make sure we implement the Iran nuclear treaty, so nuclear deal. So, you know, I love the rhetoric from all the candidates in this race. I think it's important for us to remind people what we stand for as Democrats, but I want a leader who is ready to go on day one, who doesn't need any on-the-job training, who is tough, who knows how to get it done, and that is Hillary Clinton.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to be back here at Portsmouth at Great Bay and to have this chance to appear before you with my friends. I'm thrilled to have Al Franken here. It is Saturday night and he is live right here at Portsmouth. I am so proud of your governor and so excited about her joining the Senate with your help. Maggie, thank you for your leadership and all that you are doing. Thank you, and I am also really grateful to have Jean Shaheen's support. And as she was talking toward the end about the need to really consider that you're voting for both the president and the commander-in-chief, I was thinking about the Portsmouth shipyard. I was thinking about peace, the National Guard base, and how much this community has contributed to our national defense and security, and I want to thank the people of Portsmouth and New Hampshire for that. We are getting down to that point before the first of the nation primary. When I see crowds like this, and when I go door to door, as I did in Manchester, or stop at a restaurant, where the seriousness of this process has really gripped the people of this state. You have the first in the nation primary for a reason. Granite Staters pay attention. You follow this, you care about it. You give a candidate a first look, maybe a second, a third, even a fourth. Because you want to get it right. No matter what your views or how you think about the future, you take it seriously. And we are the better for it. I am very grateful for the support that I have gotten in this state, for the wonderful experiences that Bill and I have had going back to 1992. The friends we have made, how we've gotten to know this state. You know, to paraphrase Daniel Webster, it's a small state, but there are those who love it, including me. And so being here as we move toward the Tuesday primary is a great privilege. I want you to think with me for a minute about what this election should be about. It should be about all of us deciding what kind of future do we want for ourselves, our families, our communities, and our dear country. I know there's a lot of anger and venting and frustration among people today, and I get it. Things need to be better. We need to get our political system working, get out of the gridlock, start rolling up our sleeves and solving problems again. That is indeed what we have always done better than anybody else. Earlier today in Concord, I was with another one of our great senators who is supporting me, the senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker. And Cory was talking about the challenges that generation after generation of Americans have had to face. He went all the way back to George Washington. He said, you know, George Washington got driven out of New York by the British, had to go to New Jersey, had to reconsider how he was going to get back. We've always faced obstacles. We've always had challenges. What sets us apart is our belief in the future. That we are, as Al said, quoting Paul Wellstone, we are all better when we are all better. That's why we have continued to widen the circle of opportunity and rights. Why we keep moving toward that more perfect union, knowing that there is no perfection. There's the journey. There's the impetus to keep doing better every single day. I said last night in Manchester that my husband and I think a lot about the fact that, you know, there are probably more yesterdays than tomorrows in our lives. But I look out and I see so many of you with a lot more tomorrows. And what we have to do together is to imagine what that tomorrow can and should be. Imagine the tomorrows where we will have more good quality jobs with rising incomes, where people will be working to fix and build the infrastructure we need for a competitive economy, where advanced manufacturing will once again be given the incentives to come back to New Hampshire and America, where we will combat climate change by becoming the 21st century clean energy superpower, not China, not Germany, the United States of America. Imagine the tomorrows where small businesses will be growing again, where the minimum wage will no longer be a poverty wage, where women will finally get equal pay for our work. You see, I appreciate the sign about believing in me, but ultimately, I believe in you. I believe in us. I believe what we are capable of doing together. And I believe that the only way we can make those tomorrows what we imagine they can be is by deciding we're going to come together, find ways to work with one another, and create the future that our children and we deserve. I get the anger. I get the frustration, but anger is not a plan, and venting is not a strategy. Once we express our disappointment and our determination, then we have to roll up our sleeves. And as you heard from the governor, as you heard from the two senators, we have work to do. Imagine that tomorrow when we finally get to universal health care coverage, 100% of all Americans able to afford quality health care. Imagine when we have reined in the predatory pricing of the drug companies so they cannot rip off consumers and patients any longer. Imagine when we take mental health as seriously as every other kind of health problem. Imagine when we have enough treatment for every addicted person who wants to get into recovery and get on with life. Imagine when we take seriously Alzheimer's and autism and other conditions that we can help families with and give young people a better future. All of that, my friends, is not just possible, it is doable. It is what we can do together. But everything I've just said, the Republicans disagree with. They don't have a jobs program. They want to take us back to trickle-down economics. It failed us not once, not twice, but 3 times, and they want to impose it again. That is their policy. We can't let that happen. They also don't believe in raising the minimum wage or equal pay, and they want to repeal the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act is one of the greatest accomplishments of the Democratic Party and of President Obama that we have ever had. That's why I so strongly support it, and I want to make it better, and why I will not let the Republicans repeal it, and why I think it would be a grave error to start over again and try to achieve a 0 to 100% coverage from the very beginning. You know, it's so interesting to me. Senator Sanders and I share many of the same goals. We know we've got to get the economy working for everybody. It is too tilted toward the top. That's not the way we succeed together. I want every one of you to feel that your hard work is going to be rewarded. We've got to change direction. We've got to rein in the special interests. We've got to make sure that Wall Street never wrecks Main Street again, and we will. But setting the goals is an essential first step, but it's just the beginning. It's the beginning. I'll get to that, but don't block other people. Come on. Be respectful. Be respectful. Come on, be respectful. I'll get to that. We're getting there. We're getting there. Everybody's got an issue. I love it. Thank you. But what we have to do is to figure out how we continue to make progress. You know, we had a little back and forth in the debate the other night about being a progressive. I don't know, maybe I'm just sort of simple about this. I think a progressive is someone who makes progress. And for me, there is so much progress to be made. But we don't start by tearing down the progress we've already made. We need to keep and fight for the Affordable Care Act and make it better. We need to take on those interests that are undermining the quality of care and the price of care, and we will. We also have to have an energy policy that moves us from fossil fuels to clean, renewable energy as quickly as that is possible. That's why I've set some big goals. I want us to have 500 million more solar panels installed by the end of my first term and enough clean energy to power every home in America in the next 8 years. So when I think about tomorrow, I think about standing on the shoulders of so many who have come before. People who have sacrificed, who have worked, who have given their all to move our country into the future with confidence, with optimism, with broad-based prosperity, and with the expansion of our rights. At the root of that is education. And I know we've got some teachers and some retired teachers here, and I want you to know that I want to be your partner. I want to support teachers, not scapegoat teachers. I want to be someone who works with you to educate our children. And I want to imagine a tomorrow where we have enough early childhood education so every single child is prepared to go to school and achieve. And I imagine a tomorrow where you can actually afford to go to college and not come out with so much debt that you can't get on with your life. You know, I think about this college issue all the time. How many of you have ever had student debt? I did, okay? I mean, it used to be you'd have student debt, you'd pay it off, you'd go on. When I borrowed money, I didn't have a big interest rate on it. I was able to pay it off. Took a while, but I did it. So did my husband. Now when I go to groups like this, and I was just at New England College, and I asked about student debt. I asked if kids knew or anyone in the audience knew what kind of interest rate they had. A man raised his hand and said 8%. A young woman raised her hand and said 11%. There is something seriously wrong when we are mortgaging the future of our young people and we're not giving them the resources you need to get your education. We're going to have affordable college, debt-free tuition. We're going to pay down those debts. We're going to refinance them. I want people to get out of interest-bearing debts. You borrow the money, it goes into a revolving fund, then somebody else borrows it after you. And the federal government is not going to be making a profit off of lending money to our students anymore. There is so much we can imagine together, and then we can get to work to make it real. That's what I care about. You know, at the end of the speeches, at the end of the voting, the way I want to be judged is, are you better off when I stop than when I start? Is our country better off? Are we growing together or splitting apart? Are we reaching out one to the other to find ways to lift people up? You know, when you run for president, it can be exhausting. It's an endurance test, all the things you can read about. But it is also one of the most emotionally involved experiences that I can imagine. Because in short encounters with people, they sometimes tell you the most personal things, just wanting you to know, here's what's happening in my life. Here's what I want the next president to do. Or can you do anything? When I was canvassing in Manchester, a young man came up to me and he said, I'm supporting you. And I said, thank you. He said, I want to tell you why. He said, because you've been talking about addiction. I said, do you have a personal experience? He said, yeah. He said, I was a student athlete. I got injured my senior year in high school. I had to have surgery, and I got a lot of pain pills, a lot of opioids, and I got hooked. Then when they cut them off, I turned to heroin. It was cheap. It was readily available. I said, how are you doing now? He said, I'm 2.5 years sober. It's really hard. Every single day is really hard. He said, I want a president who thinks about somebody like me. You know, I think we all want a president who thinks about us. We want a president who not only deals with the big issues, okay, let's take on the economy, let's get incomes rising, let's go after the bad actors, let's make sure they don't hurt us anymore. Let's make us safe at home, let's make us the leader in the world. We have to, that's part of the job description. This is really a job interview that I and the other candidates are asking you to think about hiring one of us for this job. But in today's world, we also need a president who thinks about those issues that do keep you up at night, that you worry about, that you think nobody else is really concerned. You know, I started my work so many years ago at the Children's Defense Fund, dealing with problems like Maggie was saying, kids left out of school because of disabilities, or juveniles incarcerated in adult jails in South Carolina, or going undercover to Alabama to try to figure out how to stop segregated academies that were trying to evade the law. Always trying to figure out, what can we do to make life better right now? So when I think about the many tomorrows ahead of us and the tomorrows that the next president will have a hand in helping to shape, I want you to know that I will get up every single day thinking about what I can do to make a real difference in your life. You know, the work of making progress can be frustrating, can be disappointing. I remember the day when we lost the healthcare battle back in '93 and '94. You know, before it was Obamacare, they called it Hillary Care. And we got beat. We got beat. The insurance companies, the drug companies, they beat us. And you know, when you get beat, and I've had a little experience with that, when you get beat, you always have a choice. Everybody gets knocked down. Every one of us, every single one of us get knocked down. The question, as my dear late mother used to say, is, are you going to get back up? And that's as true for a country as it is for an individual. Are you going to get back up? Are you going to get back to work? Are you going to keep moving forward? Are you going to make a difference? And what I knew that day is that I couldn't quit. You know, I wasn't going to have to worry about health insurance. But I had met, by then, thousands of people who were. You know, one story I could never get out of my mind. I was at the Children's Hospital in Cleveland. I was sitting in a conference room talking to parents who had very sick children, who were telling me they couldn't get insurance because back in those days, you had a pre-existing condition, you were out of the insurance market. And this one man said to me, you know, I'm a successful business owner. I give insurance. He said, I provide insurance for my employees and their families. I can't get insurance for my 2 little girls who have cystic fibrosis. I go everywhere asking them, telling them, I can even pay. I said, what do they say to you? He said, well, the last conversation I had, this man just looked at me and he said, you don't understand. We don't insure burning houses. And the man who I was talking with, you know, got tears in his eyes. He said, they called my little girls burning houses. So when you are out in the arena trying to make progress, it's not just heart or head, it has to be both. Those stories, those experiences that you store in your heart is what gets you up. So I got up and I said, you know, at the very least, this country of ours, this rich country of ours, should insure every child at the very least. And that's when I went to work with Republicans and Democrats to create the Children's Health Insurance Program that insures 8 million kids. And of course, was it everything that we wanted? No, it wasn't. Did it give peace of mind and guaranteed health care to 8 million children and their families? Yes, it did. You know, there's that old saying attributed to different folks in the past. You know, somebody who says he'll never settle for a half a loaf hasn't been hungry. And it is time we say, look, we're going to take back our country inch by inch, step by step. We're going to beat back those special interests and forces that want to have it all for themselves. We're going to make progress together. We're going to defend our rights, and we're going to once again be the country we know we can be. Now, when I think about the rights that we have been able to extend across our country, it makes me so proud. The Republicans don't believe in nearly anything we've done. And I want you to know where I stand. I will defend a woman's right to make her own health care decisions. I will defend Planned Parenthood against these partisan Republican attacks. I will defend marriage equality and move to end discrimination against the LGBT community. I will defend voting rights. I want every 18-year-old to be automatically registered to vote. I will make appointments to the Supreme Court who will do what they can to return Citizens United. And if that can't happen, I'm going to lead a constitutional amendment to get rid of that pernicious, corrupting influence in our politics. I will defend Social Security against Ted Cruz and all the rest of them who want to end it by privatizing it. I will defend the VA. We will fix it, but we are not going to let the Koch brothers run some phony campaign to privatize the VA. I will work for criminal justice reform and to end the era of mass incarceration. I'll work for comprehensive immigration reform with a path to citizenship. And I will take on the gun lobby to get common sense gun safety reform. This is very personal to me, because one of the other things you do when you've had these positions like I have, you go to a lot of very sad, tragic places. You go to Columbine. You meet with the parents of Sandy Hook victims. You go to Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston for the funeral of the pastor. I have held more hands, I have looked into more eyes of more people who have lost loved ones to gun violence than I can bear. And there is no reason this must go on, my friends. We can do what we must to save lives without interfering with constitutional rights. The agenda that I've outlined, comprehensive background checks, closing loopholes, ending the immunity from liability for makers and sellers, for heaven's sakes, putting the people on the no-fly list, on the prohibited list from buying guns. That is supported by 92% of Americans and 85% of gun owners. So we will work together to push forward and implement a progressive agenda. And around the world, I will do everything I can to keep our country safe, to give the kind of leadership that is needed for our men and women in uniform and their families, and to thank them every single day for the service that they provide, and to take on a lot of these really tough issues, as Senator Shaheen said. I know we have to defeat ISIS. We will do it. We will do it without sending American troops into combat in Syria and Iraq. We will do it by leading an air coalition to support the Arab and Kurdish fighters. We will do it, yes, by using some special forces and some trainers and some spotters and others, because we have to. This is a threat that is not just over there, as Jean said. This is a threat that we know is here. and is metastasizing like some virulent, fast-moving cancer. So we've got to go after their foreign fighters, their foreign funders, their presence online. But we also have to recognize the first line of defense against terrorism is right here at home. We have to all be on the same side, united. After 9/11, one of the really successful programs that was implemented was a program saying, if you see something suspicious, report it. If you hear something, report it. We were totally united, all religions, all races, all people. That's what we have to be to defeat these terrorist threats. So when I hear Republican candidates insulting and demeaning American Muslims and Muslims overseas, it's not just shameful, it's dangerous. It is a real assault on our common defense, and we cannot let anyone here at home or around the world believe that those candidates speak for us. I know a little bit about creating coalitions because I put the coalition together to impose the sanctions on Iran, to drive them to the negotiating table, to work out the agreement, to put a lid on their nuclear weapons. And you do not form coalitions with Muslim nations by insulting their religion. That is absolutely wrong. So here's what I want you to know. I want you to know that I really believe in our tomorrows. I really know that the nation we imagine is within our reach. I want you to know that I will work my heart out for you. I will find common ground wherever it exists, and I will stand my ground when I must. But I can't do any of that without you. New Hampshire has been very kind to me. I know I'm running against a neighbor, and I know how neighborly Granite Staters are. But as you take the second, third, fourth look at us, as we move toward Tuesday, I hope you will imagine who can be the next president and commander-in-chief. I hope you will imagine what we can do together. I hope you will believe that we can wage and win the fight for the future, because I sure do, and I need your help on Tuesday. Thank you all. Thank you so much.